Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Seek Therapy Podcast. It's me, Jasmine.
And America.
And Jasmine Tide trying to figure it out, as always.
Jasmine, what the fuck?
Ooh,
You
child.
are so funny. How are y'all? How's your week been? What's been your highlight? What's been your challenge? I'll start. My challenge this week has been just the reality of settling in from Oakland and being so exhausted. Like, I started waking up at 4 a.m. instead of 4:50, and that feels very completely different. And so I think doing that and still being tired from this weekend, I was just like exhausted. And so this morning, y'all know I like to go to the gym right when they open. This morning, I wake up, couldn't find my phone because it was not on the charger. It was in my jean jacket. And so it was not charged. So I did not go to the gym because I'm not about to raw dog the gym like that. I'm not about to not have no music. And I'm doing the rock solid fitness challenge. So I wouldn't be able to see it. So it wasn't giving. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to listen and just rest. So I went back to sleep. Um, so it wasn't all that bad, but just feeling tired and heavy. I feel like it was a heavy week. Um, and then my highlight is that I got to go bowling with Joe and Eric last night, and we got some drinks and we caught up and all that. So that was nice and a good time away from the house.
Ooh.
What about you, America? What's been your highlight? Hmm?
Before I say mine, I want to say, and also shout out to you because you realized, I think, in the middle of the week, or maybe that was last week, I can't remember, but that your time that you have been getting up isn't working for you. And you identified that and you made a different decision. So shout out to you for acknowledging that and then
Oh,
um so
thanks, Franny.
you're welcome, girl. Let me see. Challenges this week. Same. Tired. My alarm goes off just a couple minutes before yours. It's 3:55, but that's to give me enough time to press snooze at least a good twice. Before I, before I get out of the bed. So just feeling tired. Came out of training, and right back into the work week this week because I didn't really plan for that. So that's been a challenge. And then highlight, I reached out to two therapists this week.
Period, Frank.
No.
Ow! So we can get that started. Specifically EMDR therapist because I don't want to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I want to do the somatic stuff. So reached out to two of them, and I've been sleeping better too. So that's been really nice to be able to go to sleep. Knock on wood. Be able to go to sleep and stay up all night without any disturbances. So getting to
Mhm.
bed earlier, staying asleep majority of the night, and feeling better. So that's been nice.
Yes, we love it. We love it.
Okay, so my challenge this week has been State Farm insurance.
I'm
And
sorry. I don't know why that's funny. Okay, go ahead.
you can't trust these light skinned niggas out here. Okay.
Wait.
Because Jake was trying to be down with Drake, and you can't trust these niggas. So, like, I had my car accident on the 30th of December.
Mhm.
Still don't have my car. Still don't know the verbiage of like, is it totaled? What are we doing?
Mm.
But, um, and they're trying to play me on this rental car. And I'm like, no. So Enterprise better not be calling me asking for some money because State Farm is your customer, not me. So yeah, so I will be finding a new insurance provider, depending on what's going on with this car. Well, regardless of what's going on with this car.
Mm-hmm.
These
Yeah.
I've been with them since I was 16 years old, so they're trifling.
Mm.
Um, my highlight this week has been that it's been a good week. You know,
Yes.
good. It does. I don't feel heavy, like something is just on my shoulders, on my back. Um, yeah, and just going into that, not being forceful of, not overthinking it, just leaning into uh, the easiness of just being
Mhm.
myself and just taking it day by day. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. Spend some time with some family after we're done recording and force my little brothers to help me with grading some projects. Double that as family time,
Yeah.
a free meal, come back home, get ready for the week.
Love it. Awesome. I forgot to say that I also had a very good training. Um, so I had a training called the Crawford Racial Bias Reduction Training. And when I got there, I was like, oh my God, okay, who cares, whatever. And so I get there, and it's this black ass, unapologetically black ass, smart ass woman, beautiful, like with her locks, just being herself, talking to us like I'm talking to y'all, you know, and calling white people out.
Mhm.
So that was just very good for me. I mean, I've talked to plenty of other people that were in the training, and they were like, how great was that training, right? Like, amazing. Via Zoom. I literally put my phone on do not disturb. So I'm going to be referencing that training throughout our pod because she gave some gems. Some gems were dropped. Okay. Um, but as far as putting people onto new things that I am reading, watching, listening to, whatever the case may be, um, let's get into Nunu. So yesterday I went to Barnes and Noble, and this is not new, but it is new as an adult for me. So I went to Barnes and Noble in the morning so that I could work on my CEU course without Janae. And so I went there. I got myself, well, I brought coffee and water. So I was just using their Wi Fi for that time. And then I bought it was a really good matcha latte with pumpkin cold foam or something like that. It was fire. Okay, I was like, I can get used to this. Everybody nice, people talking to me. Good morning. I said, this is my kind of people. People reading, minding their damn business. I said, this is it. So I'm gonna say that my new is going to the bookstore. Even if it's just to read your book or whatever the case may be, it's a nice environment. And I am almost done with this book. I started on Saturday last week. It ends with us. Everyone is talking about it by Colleen Hoover. And in the spirit of Black History Month, this is a white woman. But it is a very good book. So I would suggest getting it. Um, I just been flipping through it. And I was like, damn, why I gotta be reading this right now? So I did go to Barnes and Noble and buy some other books. So I did buy something about June by Tia Williams. What is it called? I can't remember what it's called, but um I I just want you to get out there and freaking read 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. And that is a Black woman. So that is going to be my next read after this. But yeah, maybe you used to love going to the bookstore or the little book fair in elementary school and you kind of got out of that innocence. And so I just want to suggest that you spend some time in the bookstore again and see if you find something that sits with you.
Mhm.
What y'all doing?
That's wild. I just want to say. I just want to say that's wild because over the week, we were all having a moment, and you two were like, "Are we the same person?" Because y'all were connecting on stuff that you didn't realize you had in common. And Jasmine, I go hang out in Barnes and Noble. Like I just like the smell of the bookstore.
Right, me too.
In there chilling, whether if it's like in there studying, uh,
Mm-hmm.
going in there. So like it's crazy because my new is the book that I got in there, and it's called Living Forward. It is by two cis men, heteronormative white men, to be exact, in the spirit of Black History Month. But I feel like it's going to be a quick and easy read. Yeah, and just, I mean, it's like 200 pages. So I can quickly knock that out. And there are some other Black authors that I have already purchased, waiting on Amazon to come in and get to those. So yeah. Prince Harry was my, because I'm trying to read a book a month throughout the year. And so Prince Harry was my book of January. Um, you know, it's not really Black history adjacent, but he's trying to for the
He's
people.
married to a Black
Right.
woman.
He's trying. He acknowledges his downfalls before Meghan. So we can appreciate that. We still didn't need to know he was circumcised. I'm going to stand on that 10 toes. It was,
You feel so strongly about that.
it was just, I was driving and I was like, oh, okay, well, here we are.
Uh, what about you, America? What's new with you, boo?
So my new is also a book. Um,
Look at
however,
us
mine
reading.
however mine is by a Black author. So happy Black
Period.
History. But I'm reading Learning to Breathe. And it's by Janice Lynn Mather. But I'm doing it a little different. I think I said a couple weeks ago, I saw a tweet and a woman was discussing how she manages to read. She used to love to read as a child. She could read multiple books in a day. That was me. And now she's struggling with reading because her brain is doing what her brain is doing. And so she had talked about having an audible play while you also read. So it's like it's reading to you. And so I've been
Mm,
doing that and it has been phenomenal because the only thing I can do is focus on the book. So that has been
right.
really so that's my no. If you need to make adjustments, get you an Audible, read the book with it, whatever you need to do so that you can read and have some damn peace. Do what you need to do.
I'm glad you said that because there's a book I have, and I bought the Audible of it because it's a series, but I didn't
Mhm.
want to buy the rest of the series. And so I was like, man, is that weird to like follow along like story time? So I'm glad you just validated that.
I'm glad too because did I think it was weird at first? Yes. I was like, wait, this is kind of weird. Like, why do I need to do this? I didn't have to do this before, and then the whole little thing started. And I was like, okay, I didn't have to do it before, but I need to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I'm gonna meet where
We
I am right now, and this is what I need to do. And so it's been pretty cool.
nice.
Yes. I
So,
love that.
uh,
And now I feel compelled to say that I finished Black Cake, which was by a Black author during Black History Month.
next time.
um, but I just kind of want to start this episode with a moment of silence for Tyree Nichols, for Keenan Anderson, two Black men who died at the hands of the police department. Um, I'm going to shut up now. So I'm just going to say that this is going to be a difficult topic. But it is a topic that I see so much value in us discussing, and holding space for one another, just because where else do we really get that space to do so? So, police brutality. It's something that has evolved, right, from slave ownership and is now modern day slave hunting. Um, as you can see, Black people are continuously targeted by the police. And we know that their white counterparts typically have illegal substances on themselves or weapons or whatever the case may be, but because of the color of their skin, no one is ever stopping them. And if they are stopping them, they are making it home, which is not what we can say, for these two young men. Um, for me as a parent, I have to think of how I talk about racism with my child, because we know that it is gonna happen, right? In the training, she said that children start to make friends and determine their circle by race at age of 2. And so in the training, we have breakout groups, and these white people were like, okay, but if you talk about that, then that takes away some of their innocence. And I'm like, okay, yes. And that is a privilege that you have. That's not a privilege that I have, because my child is surely going to be discriminated against before your child is. And so it's important for me to define racism. So she was like, okay, how do you talk about racism with kids? Like, how will they understand it? That's what people were trying to say. Oh, they're not going to understand it. She said, okay, racism is bullying someone based on the skin that they are in.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's rough, y'all. It has been rough. And I feel like people can become desensitized to the reality that we are living in. People can say, like, oh, it's just another name, or, but it's not normal. This is not normal. We shouldn't be seeing people that look like us. We shouldn't be seeing anyone getting fucking killed by the cops. But we shouldn't be seeing people that look like us literally being killed by the police.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the victim blaming and saying, oh, well, they had drugs. And okay, and who the fuck don't?
I don't, but I get your point. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm like,
Oh,
but no. You're right. You're absolutely right.
you know,
Mm.
I have so many different layers because then I also work in the hood.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so I work with students that struggle with emotional regulation, right? Because their parents struggle with emotional regulation, right? Because their parents struggle with emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And so them just existing, right, and their very real experiences, and the police, the kids don't think beyond what's happening now. They don't think about the future. They don't think about what them saying X, Y, and Z will do, right? And so that really rocked me to my core, in thinking about how this could happen.
If we're being honest, many Black and brown people, especially when we are talking about generational trauma and intergenerational trauma, we have to remember how trauma changes our brain. And so
Right.
for a lot of people, they're not able to think about the future. They're not able to think about future consequences in the moment. They're only trying to make it through that moment. And so when
Right.
we're talking about being emotionally dysregulated, we got to remember for those kids and for those parents, it's a long line of that. So then
Right.
to expect somebody in that moment of when they've experienced a certain level of trauma, especially if they've experienced trauma, we're talking about the cycles of the power of control, and we're understanding how those things come into play in that moment. It's impossible to expect, unrealistic to expect for somebody to be able to regulate themselves and the flooding that happens in those moments. It's impossible.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
the police system, not just the police, health, school system, and everybody else,
All the systems
all the
expect.
systems have learned how to use that and navigate it in a way that's more beneficial for them. So I have a
Right.
supervisee that she is a social worker in the school that she works in. And they have her with a caseload, and she mentioned that one of her kids is struggling with emotional regulation. And so he got hemmed up by two white cops. This is a 97% black school. He got hemmed up by two SROs, and of course, he had this really emotional outburst because they were grabbing him and he's experienced a great amount of abuse. So
Right.
he has this outward expression. Of course, it's we got to prove a point, we got to shut him down, we got to,
Hmm.
he has to be arrested and suspended and all of these other things. Yet at this school, y'all got a chill room.
And so why was that not used or offered?
You take the white kids to the chill room when they're having issues with
Or-
regulating
right.
themselves, or the other brown kids, but you don't take the black kids there, especially the big black boys, because in that moment you want to remind them
That they can be broken.
that they can be broken. That's literally what that is. So the shit runs deep.
It
The
really does.
pipeline is not a joke.
Oh my God. It's not.
Yeah. I agree with everything y'all are saying. There were some points that Jasmine made that really resonate with even my middle schoolers that I see, right? I
Mhm.
go to a school that is not primarily white at all. And so we've had two instances in the new year in which group of eighth grade boys, to my understanding, were just going back and forth of like who could say the most ridiculous thing. And one of them, was like, "Well, I'll shoot up the school," and it's like, well, all right, like you can't say that.
We're
So
gonna stop you right the fuck there.
of course, like, shut it down. So he was expelled, and I didn't realize it until after the fact. At the end of the day, teachers get together and chit chat. But I did walk by the AP's office throughout the day and did see a mom in there crying with the student. And so it makes sense. I mean, like now he's been expelled and like just all the repercussions that come with this.
Hmm.
And in that moment of ignorance and trying to say the most outlandish thing, you have now impacted your life. What I've noticed is with my students, they're seventh graders, and even with eighth graders, it's like the word racist or racism is so diluted. When I first started this position, I was there probably my third week, and a little girl said under her breath, because I told her to stop talking during the quiz, that I was racist. And so I told her to repeat herself in front of the class because she said it to where like five other students were like sniggling. And I asked her to repeat herself, like, if you're bold enough to say it under your breath, like, here I am, right? Like, say it to me. And she wouldn't repeat herself. And I started to let it go, but I was just like, no, like I'm not, I can't condone it because I've heard it. And so I called her parents, and like towards the end of class and as class was being dismissed, I gave her the phone to talk to her dad and let them have a moment. And she told her father that I was racist against her because she was Arabic and Muslim. And I was, of course, like, as an adult, like taken aback by it and hurt by it as a woman of color, as an adult, as someone who just, that wasn't even the mindset. If you're talking during a quiz, like, that's the problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and then, like, the parent got off the phone with the kid. So I just, come to find out, it was all handled by the AP. I didn't have to interject or anything beyond that, but it just, it really got me to think, like, these kids throw these words around and they don't realize the impact or the heaviness of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's been countless times as a peer and as now an adult, and just like, I've had to tell Hispanic people, like, why are you saying the N word?
Oh,
If
girl.
more than the black folks around you, and sometimes there's not.
No, that's literally my school.
It is. It grinds my gears. Like, that word is not of your culture, and that's the whole. We can. I can go on a whole tangent about the N word, but it's just, a lot of these things are cultural. And there are experiences, there are traumas that are literally passed down to us through our experience, through our DNA. And if you can't relate, then empathize, ask how you can be an ally, and let's move the fuck on.
Oh,
But don't.
speaking of,
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, speaking of being an ally, Dr. Crawford said being an ally is the absolute bare minimum. You need to be an abolitionist, abolish that shit.
Mm,
So don't just tell me that you support me. Like, stand in front of me and demand that I'm treated better, or say something to this cop that is harassing me, Don't just say, like, I support you, Black Lives Matters.
yeah. And acknowledge that there are weapons that can be used against Black folks that are not your typical weapons. So, white fragility, white tears, um,
Mhm.
calling the police, using, like, we've all seen videos and know of instances where those things are used as weapons, against Black people, against the Black community. The likelihood of what would happen when you call the police, on a suspicious or therefore otherwise, non-emergency issue.
All right.
It also gets me that, like, the police, their motto is to protect and serve, and it's like the institution of policing is oppressive, and
Right.
the job of a police officer is a job.
Right.
For me, I try to conceptualize it that way, and that way I don't find myself in fear of.
Right. And so, just saying that when this whole Blue Lives Matter thing happens, right? Uh, y'all lives are not blue.
You literally take your uniform off at the end of your 8 and or 12 hour shift. And that's no longer your identity. Whereas I don't get to take mine off. Y'all don't get to
Right.
take y'all. Something
Right.
we wear all the time.
I don't
Right.
get to retire with a pension from being Black.
Right.
For sure.
That part. Something that they have weaponized. And that brings a good point up for me back to, like, the whole parenting thing, is that I want Janae to be unapologetically Black as fuck. And that is the very thing that they weaponized, right? Being Black. And so it's just a hard dance, right? Because I want her to show up as herself, and I want her to know that there are very real dangers out there.
Yeah. My aunt was telling, so my little brothers are 16 and 15 right now. 16-year-old has his own car. Um,
Mm,
Thankfully, like, hasn't been pulled over or anything like that. My aunt on my mom's side is teaching my little cousin who's 15 how to drive, and he was pulled over by the cops with her in the vehicle. And so I asked her, how did he handle it? And she was like, he handled it fine. She was like, I don't teach him to be fearful. So he wasn't scared or anything. He gave him his information and, and it kept it moving. And so I I resonated with that of like teaching our kids not to be fearful, but to be knowledgeable. Um, well, here comes America, but just
Right.
fearful.
Um, which I think is helpful, but I also think we have to remember if kids are seeing these kids, adults, whoever are continuously seeing these videos of people who look like them be gunned down, beat, whatever, left in the street for dead, whatever the situation is, it's really hard to then you as a parent share with them, oh, well, don't be afraid. As long as
Right.
you put your hands where they're supposed to be, and as long as you
Right.
your ID around your neck, and
Because
as
that's
long as you
not
do all of
true.
these other things, it's going to keep you safe, because the reality is that is not true. That is not what's going to keep a black person safe. If a white officer or even a black officer, whomever,
Right.
pulls somebody over and they on some power trip shit, and
Right.
that the ego is in the way and they're not able to regulate themselves, it's going to happen whether they can see your shit or not. So I understand teaching like don't be afraid, because I do think that fear, of course, is going to intensify the experience for everybody. And at the same time, understanding that we continuously, it's another name, two names in a span of what, a week or so, and then
Yeah.
seeing videos and they're circulated and people are sending trauma porn literally, and like watching
Literally.
videos, watching a person's last minutes. It's gonna be hard as hell to not be afraid of that.
Right.
Like that's hard.
Yeah.
And that's a very understandable response because
Yeah,
it's not fucking normal.
it's not.
And we are in a society where they want us to think that it is normal
Right.
because nothing happens.
And I
Well,
think oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just to that point, I mean, lynching was legalized, right? Lynching was a, I look at those pictures and it's like some of them look like they're in their Sunday's best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hats, coats,
Yep.
suits on. So, like, the massacre of Black bodies and then left to display the dehumanizing of Black people.
Mhm.
I mean, that
Mhm.
that it's been like that since we got here. So
Right.
in my mind, when you are viewing these shootings through social media, you are watching a modern day lynching.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And do you want to be a part of that? Like for me, I have a visceral reaction to it because I see my dad, my brothers, my uncles, my lovers. Like I see ourselves in them. So
Mhm.
I, you know, I stopped watching the videos a long time ago.
Oh,
I
I definitely right. I was like, I
I don't watch
definitely
them.
don't watch them ever under
And
any circumstance.
I think when the killing, well, I will say black men because I know women too, but when this started to come about, or we started to see it more often, I feel like at one point I even remember feeling like, okay, good. People are gonna see this. People are gonna understand that this is a problem. When they say black folks pull the race card or everything's about race, if you just comply, if you just this, if you just that, my thought was, okay, people will see these videos. They'll start to see black people as people. And then
Mhm.
maybe this will change something within the systems that be. And I think quickly after one or two, I was like, oh shit. No, like it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't change society's perception of black people or blackness. If anything, if you see comments under those videos, it I don't give a damn what's happening. It's always something around, like you said earlier, what's in their system, what they were
Right.
doing
Oh, they
before,
had
is
drugs. Right.
history. It's always something. And so I think after a while, what that's done is it's just increased this feeling of hopelessness. Like it's
Mhm.
a feeling of I know what's happening and I can't do nothing about it. So then
Nothing.
you start to feel despair. You start to feel defeated. You start to feel like, what's the point? And I think that's where that desensitizing comes from is, well, I
Right.
can't do shit about it. So,
Right.
okay. And it's just another name and it just continues to happen in that way. but we don't really understand or realize the impact that seeing Black death has on all of us. Like, it's traumatic,
It
vicarious
is.
trauma.
It
And
is.
it is a real fucking thing. And we really got to be willing to start paying attention to how that's impacting us. It is not
Mhm.
normal to see a person. First of all, it's not normal to see somebody die anyway. That's
Anyway,
not
like
a normal
anyone.
experience.
Regardless.
Anybody, regardless. And then we
Like,
can talk about gun violence and all of that, but like that, there's nothing about that that's normal. And
right.
then you couple in seeing a white people in positions of power, white officers, black officers as well, then exert this power on people, on black men, and dehumanizing black men in the way they do. That's just not normal. Nobody
It's
should see
not.
that. Nobody should experience it. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's a constant reminder that you don't matter.
Right.
Right. Which is the whole. All right.
No, you're right. That's the whole point, though.
That is
No,
the
you're right.
whole point
That's
And I
the.
think
of
that,
Black Lives Matter.
I was gonna. Right. You
yeah.
know. So then, like, people take that and they weaponize it and they manipulate it. So,
They do.
case in point to how the media manipulation of that stems. This past week, we had an incident at the school. So the school I work at is grades 6 through 12,
Oh,
Mm.
and there's
That's
uh,
a big ass range.
I do
right,
not think schools should have people kids 6 through 12.
I
And
don't. I don't. Like
ooh,
a sixth grader and a 12th grader being in the same fucking place is
I don't like
not
that.
okay
I
for
don't like
me.
that at all.
so there's a large cafeteria and a gym that separates the middle school from the high school. But yes, they're all connected. You could walk from one side to the other. So last week there was a day I was in class with the kids, and a group of high schoolers came in, said they were with yearbook, can they interview a couple of students. So a few kids volunteered, or some of them were like, oh, you should take so and so, you should take so and so. And this group, and I thought it was odd because typically with yearbook it's like 3 kids will come, but this was like 5 or 6. So I was like, okay. But they picked 2 boys that were seemingly white out of the bunch from the group. One is low-key Mexican, the other one, his family's from Palestine. So, okay. So they pick them, they go out in the hall, whatever, whatever. Boys come back, and the kids are like, what happened? Oh, they just interviewed us. Didn't think anything of it, moved on. Friday after school, it then comes out that that group of kids skipped yearbook class, went around the school, and they were cherry picking the white kids from classes and asking them, what's your favorite so and so TV show, food, dessert, whatever, whatever. And then kids would answer and they would say, well, would you rather your favorite so and so or to celebrate Black History Month? Would you rather your favorite so and so or to support Black Lives Matter?
So they was doing the TikTok trend.
Is that a TikTok trend?
It's a black girl that goes around and asks people this or Black History Month. Taco
Gosh.
Bell or Black History Month to like white, red, Southerner. At least they seem like Southerners. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of that. And so that's what they were doing. How they got caught is because they picked the wrong motherfucking one. So they picked this little girl, and within 20 minutes, her white mother was at the school, and the operation was shut down. And so it's
Okay.
it's like, the audacity, the fact that we are out here and we fight for I've been smoking too much, y'all. Legitimization. Lord help me. Anyway, we need to legitimize our movement and our ability to be seen and just be. I don't even have the words of how pissed and ignorant that was of them. But I guess knowing that it's a social media trend doesn't
Makes sense.
it
It
does
don't make sense. It don't
doesn't
matter. It
make
don't make sense.
it better. You
Yeah.
know,
No, no. But
you
now you see, like, oh, they're being dumb because everyone's
know,
being
but
dumb.
when
Yeah.
someone else on the dumb, you know? And so now it just fires me. It was like, okay, well, this week our Black History Bulletin needs to go up. This
Yeah.
week to make sure that like I'm tying in social studies and Black history and like letting these kids know, like we just talked about Texas annexation and they really want to harp on slavery. Well, it's like, okay, if y'all want to talk about slavery, then like I need to explain it to them to where they can humanize with it. And it's not just like something controversial to say, because at this age, they're also learning cuss words. You know what I mean? They don't know
Oh,
how
they're
to,
not learning, baby.
well, they don't know how to cuss, but they just be cussing. And they
Yeah.
ridiculous. So it's like slavery, racism, you're a racist. Like words like that, to them are just cuss words. They're just talking. And you
Mm.
really to shut the fuck up, but you can't.
Listen, one thing I know for sure is they couldn't put me in a classroom with kids because somebody gonna fire me. Because when I tell you, I remember seventh, eighth grade social studies, and I remember it like it was yesterday, oddly enough. And I remember the discussion about slavery and how it was just glossed over. And it was almost like you blink and oh, black folks in America, and this is what they were doing. And it's like, no, we got to have a real conversation about what was actually happening. We got to talk about the transatlantic slave trade. We got to talk about the impact that that's had on people's psyche. We got to talk about slave owners. We can talk about the black slave owners too if y'all want to. Like, we got to talk about racism as a system, like the
Mhm.
whole thing, because getting it from a book, that ain't it.
Right.
And being in Texas, our Daughters of the Republic have already whitewashed our textbooks. We
Of
know that.
course.
So there's no way that I could, you know, yeah.
Shit. And Black History Month will be my last month working because I would tell them that everything they need to know and wait for somebody mama to call.
Right.
Black,
Because let
get black.
Okay? They
period.
hate me.
And that's that on that. Um, I'm trying to think, was there like another point that I had from the training? Because yes, the black on black crime.
Yeah,
Because we know that Tyree Nichols was killed by how many black
5.
cops?
5.
Okay, 5. I'm like, that's a lot of motherfuckers.
Black, 5
Uh,
black men, 1 white officer.
okay. And so that brings me to the Instagram post that I had shared about diversity not being the problem. Did I already say the quote that diversity is never the goal? It is just the reward.
Mhm.
And so having more Black people in the police department will not have a positive impact on the culture, right? Because the culture is still rooted in whiteness.
Mhm.
And so when we say, oh, how did these 5 black men kill this black man? Understand that their job that they are doing is rooted in whiteness. And so, in order to gain acceptance and to show that they are able to do their job and fulfill their duties, they are doing the fucking most.
there was a point in history where there were certain black men that, in order to gain their place in society, they would sell and profit off of the backs of other white men, the black slave owner. Uh, the whole situation with these cops is really given Massa and his 5 men dingoes. That's really the energy in my mind that is given, and I would stand on that.
America.
I think in if I think in big picture that's true, but if what they're saying about this case is what it is, this ain't even got anything to do with policing. This some other shit. This some
Oh, so what are they saying?
So according to social media world, and again, I don't know because I mind my business, but the understanding is this was some personal shit. The one of the officers sent a text to his ex girl and said, "I got the nigga you was fucking with." So this is something else. This is completely different from like when we're talking about systemic and the internalized racism and oppression. This is a little different. This is taking your privilege and abusing the fuck out of it so that you can do
Right.
what you want to do.
Yeah, because
That's crazy.
Now I don't know if that's true, but that's that's what the social media world was saying. So
America just came and dropped a bomb.
what
sorry.
she be
I
doing?
don't be doing it on purpose. I'd be trying to be quiet, but then I was like, let me say this out loud because I think that's important. Now, let me be very clear. I am not negating the fact that I know that Black officers can get into can use this internalized oppression and anti-blackness, and they will do what they got to do because they've been told they need to do it. I'm clear on
Right.
that too. I just
Right.
don't. I'm not sure if that's what this was. I think this might have been something.
Damn.
Well.
I think this might be a little different. Just a little bit, but it doesn't negate the fact that I've seen white people say, well, you know, and some black people, which it's always funny, like the guy in your training around, like, well, what about black on black crime? Black people kill black
Mhm.
people. Pause. Black on black crime is not real. It is a fucking myth. Black people are not killing other black people because they're black.
Right.
Black people are killing other black people because they're close in proximity. Black people tend to live near other black people. You tend to have conflict with the people that you live around and that you deal with. It's just crime. Black on black is not real. It's some make believe shit to distract people from the power that be and the
The
systems and
real
how they work.
issue. Right.
That's all that. That's it. That's it. And you only hear people talk about black on black crime when we're talking about trying to have rebuttals against police brutality. And the reality is crime, and we can't separate it in that matter because that's not what's happening.
And it's
People,
Right.
black police are killing black men or black people because they're black,
Right.
and that's the root of it. Operates within white supremacy.
Right.
and it's a deflection. They are deflecting from the real issue by saying black on black crime.
Right.
Yes, complete deflection. You can't expect a ethnic group, black folks, that have the highest rates of poverty, have black people in low income areas, have them where there's not a lot of opportunities, which we know is a result of white supremacy. So crime is going to be a result of your social economic status. Like that's
Mhm.
just what naturally happen. That's how this
Right.
works. So this don't have shit to do with black on black. No, proximity, not real.
Ding.
And let the church say amen.
Because baby, you want
Amen.
to piss me off? So talking about black on black. Because who I be? Because what are you talking about? No, it's not real. Shut up. And black people saying it will always make my ass itch because I don't understand what you don't understand.
Oh my God.
I don't understand what you don't understand. Like, is this really ain't that hard to grasp? And stop using that as a rebuttal, especially because that means massa is in your head. If I would have been in
Right.
that, I put, sir, get the white man out your head. The white man in your head is telling you
Right.
to ask
To
about
say
black
that.
crime. That's not.
Right.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Um, I had another thought too, though. I'm also clear that police kill non-black people.
Right.
I'm very clear on that. But the biggest difference here is I have never seen, and there might be a couple, I doubt it, but I've never seen videos of non-black folks going viral and us
Right.
witnessing their death. I've never seen news coverage of a non-black person
Mhm.
dying and that being the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock news.
Right.
I've never seen that. And so if it's okay, well, if it's not okay for to see white folks die or non-black people die, the fact that we are internalizing that it is okay to witness the death of black folks is a problem.
Right. Absolutely.
This is let me finish this. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
My whole program at my job is a result from them removing school police officers from campuses and giving resources to Black students so that we can increase their achievement. Um,
Hmm.
and I've still heard horror stories about how school police have treated Black students.
Wait, they had LAPD in the school?
Yeah,
Oh, oh, all right. Because, all right.
yeah. Um, and so we know that it doesn't work. We know that it doesn't work in our community. We know that it doesn't work in our schools. And so there has to be seriously abolishing the police and like literally creating a different system to actually protect and serve
Mhm.
and not just choose when to protect and serve. Because school shootings happening, where's that need to protect and serve?
Let's not talk about the officers in Uvalde who stood in the school, who waited to enter the school, who sat idly while elementary kids and their teachers, like, yeah.
Yeah. And then during the training, this guy also said, what I noticed is that the Blue Lives Matter were pretty quiet regarding this specific
Of course,
police brutality incident.
of course,
I was like, I
100%
wonder why.
of course, they were
Blue
for
Lives
obvious reasons.
apply to these officers.
Yep,
Blue Lives Matter is a rebuttal to Black Lives Matter,
exactly.
which is idiocy because again, your job is to be a police officer.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
I do want to say this, that in my personal experience, and I know that there are people who can relate to this, and I know that it is a generalization and not always the case. But I have noticed, at least in my peers that have become cops, I can name at least five that were the obnoxious, rude, arrogant,
Mm.
saying rude things on the computer, the throw the rocks but hide your hand type of white guy. And they're all cops now. So it's like, and these are, I would say, like, shit, I mean, and just describing these five guys like the rejects of high school,
Right.
sat in their hometowns for long enough, didn't go to community college or failed out or didn't go to university like some of us who bust our asses to like get somewhere, and then they became cops because that's respected, and you know they'll take you in. So it's, what are our standards for who we choose to protect and serve us? um, but again, I don't know. Would America, would a country with the history that America has, abolish policing? I just, there's just always going to be part of me that it's like, even
Mm-mm.
this Constitution, who named Black folks, 3/4 of a person, like, just this country wasn't made for those of us in mind.
Hmm.
And we are here and we deserve to fucking live.
Because at the end of the day, we built this on our backs. You know, I just, if white people wrote the paperwork to set up the governments, and it's like, I mean, it's just, you tell us that this country is built on, um, it's a melting pot, and people come here for better opportunities and whoop whoop whoop. But what kills me is that we preach that to our kids. I don't know if we still do, because they can turn on the news and see otherwise. But I know when we were growing up, like it was taught to us that way, that you could work hard,
Mm.
become something, and you get out here in the real world, and you're like, no, it's not actually set up that way. There are legitimate barriers that us as Black people have against
You look like you were gonna say something, America.
I always look like I'm about to say something. Not only did was this country built on the backs of Black and brown emotional and physical labor, but it continues to be. We are continuing to carry this country on our backs emotionally and mentally. Um, and the whole melting pot thing, like I know it's a sociology term, but honestly, when we think about it, like that's just some bullshit that just recently started to be a part of the conversation. And it was a
Hmm.
part of the conversation because the powers that be wanted it to seem like this was a land of opportunity and growth where everybody's treated equally, and there was like a shift in that. But we all know that that's complete and utter bullshit. Like
Right.
absolutely.
that's a whole ass lie.
It's a
Uh,
delusion.
it's a complete delusion, obviously. And I know that delusion is helpful. I like to operate in delusion, but this is one of those situations where delusional is not going to change shit because it just is what it
Right.
um, and with the officers that you were talking about, Jasmine, we got to remember that society places officers in this position of power. Systemically, oddly enough, they are seen as they literally are like the judge, the juror, and the executioner. Like they get to decide. If a cop pulls you over and tells you to do A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z, walk down the street butt ass naked, stand with your finger to your nose, put your leg in the air, you are supposed to do it. And if you don't comply, comply being an interesting word here, if you don't
Right.
comply, it's a probability you're not gonna go home. Well,
Mhm.
sir, you got an attitude with me because you pissed off at your wife and you mad that
Right.
everybody
That,
attacked you through high school and that you were bullied. And now you got this little piece of power, which really ain't a little piece of power. It's a lot of
A
fucking power.
lot of power.
Think
Right.
about it. And
flex.
so if you're talking about somebody who was rejected in high school and they're having issues with their ego and their self-esteem, they get this badge and they get this uniform. Baby, I'm that nigga. So
Right.
with this new level of power and control, I'm gonna exercise it every chance I get. So you ignored me in high school, bitch. You can't ignore me now.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I got something for you now. And it forces people to respect you, or at least it give you a level of respect, even if they really don't respect you. And that's what a lot
Right.
of times people are looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the name of the study where they put the graduate students, some of them, they were randomly assigned to be the police and the rest were prisoners. And they put them in the prisoner and the power dynamic. What's the name of that study?
I'm gonna Google. Hold on.
Are
Yeah.
you talking about the shock one or a
No,
different one?
say Phillips something. It's a whole thing. But that is something that we need to regularly teach. Like I didn't learn about that until I was in a college psychology course, but that is a prime example of human nature and the power dynamic shift.
It was called the Stanford Prison Experiment.
Stanford prison experiment. Yeah. Yeah. That is worth learning about and realizing that like that is impactful and relevant in society. 100%.
Right.
Mhm.
So, what kinds of things do you do to find your center, to find some balance and some joy in the midst of like heavy life? For me, y'all already know therapy. Keeps that
Ching.
therapy on the weekly because The nature of our jobs is that we are constantly dealing with other people's things, helping them to explore it. And, we're doing a lot of mental gymnastics in our head to help them, and so it is a lot. And so to be dealing with that multiple times a day throughout the week and see this trauma porn plastered all across your social media, maybe first thing in the morning, it's a lot. And so I, for one, make sure that I don't watch any of those videos. I make sure that I don't follow anyone that would be posting those videos. I make sure that I am not checking social media first thing in the morning, because if that's the first thing I do and that's the first thing I see, then how you think my day about to go? So I try my hardest. Well, I don't try my hardest. I read first thing in the morning, while I'm waiting for my pre-workout to activate, and then I work out, and then I post. Like, I'll post my little workout pic, and then I'm like, okay, what's happening? Because I've already poured into myself first
Mhm.
before I've allowed the world to try and pour into me. Um, Finding some small ways to increase that self-care. So, like, I'll light incense throughout the day or have my diffuser. I always say the wrong thing. Diffuser going with the essential oils and stuff like that. Just trying to help myself kind of stay like in a more uplifted mood, because it's very easy to spiral down
Mhm.
in the midst of all of this. And connecting with friends and making sure that, if possible, we can hold space for each other.
Mhm.
And keyword is if possible. Don't just be calling up folks and just, hey, do you have space right now? I
Mhm.
have a lot of feelings going on with everything happening in the world. Can we talk about it together? If not, like, that's cool. Journaling, you know, but doing something so that you can talk about it and you can acknowledge it, because I feel like the world wants you to just be like, okay, anyway, back to work.
Right.
Okay, way this.
Yeah.
I think it's important to kind of process it and do so with people that you feel trusting of.
Yeah.
Mhm. In addition to all the things you said, I think one of the things, well, two of the things that feel most important for me is counteracting the internalized racism with with joy. So when you see those videos, well, many of us, when we see those videos or when we hear about it, I think it can really tap on this whole being unworthy, our blackness isn't wanted.
Mhm.
Um, and so finding instances to find joy. And so, ooh, okay, I'm not gonna say that here. I'll tell y'all when we're done. So finding finding ways to experience joy and doing things that feel good. Because to me, our joy is an act of resistance. So I am going to do whatever I can do to experience that, because why the fuck not?
Right.
Um, and then meeting myself with compassion,
Mhm.
because even with Tari, I didn't see the video. I'm thankful that I don't follow people who would post, thank goodness I haven't seen
Right. Me either.
and I'm really thankful for that. But even with like knowing that it had happened and not really knowing the backstory, not wanting to know the backstory, I noticed that I was still having some feelings come up, and I was like, wait a second, like I'm feeling uncomfortable about something I haven't even seen. And I was in the IFS training that next day. And so I'm sitting there the whole day like, bitch, I'm mad. And like, why
Mm.
am I pissed off? And then I realized, oh, I'm in this training, it's only four of us that look black, and the facilitator is a black woman, and we're talking about equity and inclusion and all of these and white supremacy, and why ain't nobody talking about what's happening? So
Right.
then I was
Right.
like, ooh, okay, cool. So if I would have judged myself in that moment, that conversation would have looked very different. But it was like, okay, let me get curious about what's happening, and then okay, what do I need? And that's why I was on the walking pad the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I needed. So just really being willing to meet myself with curiosity, meeting with compassion and
Yeah.
joy is important to me.
Same.
Yeah. For me, I agree with all of y'all. I don't watch the videos anymore. Uh, I knew the system was bullshit when I was in college, and I watched the Trayvon Martin case every day after my summer classes, and just
Mm-mm.
watching that unfold. And before the jury even left out, you just knew. You were like, they're gonna let this motherfucker get away with murder.
Yep.
And that is when, as a young adult, I realized that like this isn't what they told us. Like this is some bullshit. Um, yeah. I think Philando Castile is a good example for you can do the right thing and still end up dead. I think Sandra Bland is a good example of you can be doing something that's not worth your life, and yet in custody you don't make it home. So there's just countless examples that where I was, looking for stuff like, just trying to be in the know, to whereas now it's like same with this with Tyree's case. It's like I saw another black man gone, I saw who did it, and that's all I needed to know.
Me too.
Like it's just it like fuck all y'all, it's bullshit. So
It is.
um yeah, this country doesn't value life over liberties. It's more important to be able for let's just fucking say it. It's more important for white people to have their guns so that they feel prepared if and when this supposed race war is going to happen, aka black folks start treating you the way that you've been treating them for all these years, and they wake up and notice it and retaliate. But if that was going to happen, it would have been happened, you
Mm.
know? So that's the reason why we're fighting over guns and shit. Lives don't matter. We know that because if they don't care about these kids getting killed at Sandy Hook and Uvalde,
Right.
they don't give a fuck. So your liberties are more important than lives, than children's lives, than black folks' lives. So it's just it's yeah. When I start feeling confined by these boxes and these tropes and just society's crushing in, I know it sounds really cliche and like cancer of me, but I like getting outside. Um, and if I can make it out, go for a drive and get away from the light noise and get to see the stars, it helps me to know that like these issues, this world are small in the infinite.
Mm.
My saver is a picture of the galaxy that was sent back from the newest telescope. I can't think of its name on top of my head, but that just helps me kind of put in perspective that like, okay, there's bigger things out there when all this bullshit seems to be overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank y'all for this space to be able to process and explore that with each other. And I know that people have got a lot of good and valuable information from our conversation. And I'm surprised that my cancer ass wasn't crying. Probably did a lot in therapy and before and after. Um, but yeah, I just want to encourage everybody to make sure that they are taking care of themselves and trying to prioritize themselves, because the work will be there. It's going to be there. You're not going to be there if you're not taking care of yourself. And with everything going on, it's more important than ever to make sure that you are prioritizing yourself, your joy, your happiness. Well, just remember you can drink the green drink, you can hit reformer Pilates, and then do cycling with Cody crazy ass. But if you are ignoring the things going on in your head and in your heart, then you're still not truly healthy. So go ahead and seek therapy. Whew.
Do it, y'all. Do it.
Pull up on a good one, okay? And stay black. And if you're not black, then use your privilege to help those that are.
Correct.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye, y'all.